This year, 2-year-old Stephen Featley is looking forward to Christmas more than most. Stephen has liver disease. He's spent most of his life in hospital, but this Christmas will be different. This year, they'll be toasting his good health at home, and it's all down to his mother, Ira, who gave him the greatest gift of all. This year, she donated him part of her own liver. Ira and Stephen Featley and paediatric liver specialist Professor Georgina Miela-Vergani are here to tell us more about Stephen's fight for survival. Let me start with you, Ira. First of all, you've got a baby, and what happens? Does he fail to thrive? What gives you a clue that all is not well?
The main sign at the time was he was very colicky, he was feeding continuously, and his stools, it sounds awful, but his stools were the wrong colour. They were white, and his urine was very dark. And many midwives that I had at the time didn't pick up straight away what was wrong. And then eventually the GP did. Yes. And we were sent.
How old was he by then?
He was about 4 weeks by then.
So you really had this terrible 4 weeks with midwives sort of saying, oh, you've just got a colicky baby, don't worry,
You're
dear.
fussing.
Yeah,
you're fussing,
right.
dear.
These new mothers.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was actually told at one point that I was drinking too much milk because I was breastfeeding, and that was what was causing the stools to be so pale.
Yes.
But he was feeding continuously, because now I found out, obviously, that he just wasn't absorbing the food.
It. Right.
So
at what point in his life did this get really very serious indeed?
Well, the local hospital then sent me up to King's, and King's College Hospital were absolutely excellent. They had Children's Liver Disease Foundation. They do lots of pamphlets and everything. They explained that you had to have a thing called a Kasai, which I hadn't got a clue.
And what is that?
That's a major operation which connects the bile duct up to the liver, and it's supposed to drain the bile away.
And that was supposed to do the trick, was it?
That was supposed to do the trick.
Okay.
But unfortunately it didn't work.
No.
By about July, they found it hadn't worked. He was going jaundice, he was going very yellow, and that he had to have a transplant. Right. So I was absolutely devastated at this point.
Because also it's awfully emotive, isn't it, to think that somebody else has actually got to lose their child in order that your child has this chance. I mean, that must all go through your mind.
There's that. We spoke about living related very briefly.
Did he have the transplant at this point?
No, this was at July. We were just talking about that he was going to have one.
Right.
Then they call you try to fatten them up, as it were, and make them as healthy as possible with special milks and drugs. And then around about November, they take them in for an assessment. You meet all the wonderful team and the coordinators and the psychiatrists, because you have to make sure that you're confident of what you want to do. And we still talk about living related alongside of donors.
But I'll move you on now. So you opt for the transplant, and obviously you have great hopes for it, but it doesn't work. Now, what happened after that? At what point did you actually really come into the picture with, you know, will you give a bit of yours?
Well, 10th of December, he had a liver transplant from a donor, and as you say, the first thing I got from the phone call was, oh my God, a child's died.
Yes.
I know the child hadn't died specifically for Stephen.
No.
But
you feel that?
Because you've been fighting for their life. Then,
all right.
Unfortunately, right over Christmas, right up inclusive of Christmas Eve, he was in intensive care with various extra operations on top of the transplant. And it was discovered around about January that this was just going to continue, and they had to go ahead. All
right. So now, obviously, it's a huge decision to give up part of your own liver, because I mean, you possibly think, you know, I might need it, you know, but you did decide that, and thankfully, Stephen is here to tell the tale and looks so much better. Can I bring in Georgina here? Liver disease certainly of this sort of, you know, as bad as Stephen's. How common is that in children?
Liver disease in children, in young children, young babies, is very uncommon.
Yes.
However, about 1 in 2,600 babies in this country would have some form of liver disease. It wouldn't be as severe, as serious as what Stephen had, which was biliary atresia. Biliary atresia would affect about 50 to 60 children in this country per year.
Right.
What is particular about biliary atresia is that if it is diagnosed early enough, there is this operation that I was talking about,
Yeah.
the Kasai, which works in about 80% of the cases, not in all.
But that's if it's picked up early. So
Yeah.
what people at home will be sitting there thinking, you know, my goodness, what on earth would I look for if, you know, if I'd got a small baby? You know, how would I know if he'd got liver disease?
The first sign really usually is jaundice, which is a yellow discoloration of the skin and the eyes. The problem with jaundice in tiny babies is that it is very common. Many babies do have jaundice, and therefore this is not usually picked up as a problem.
No.
However, the jaundice due to liver disease is a little bit different from the jaundice, the normal jaundice of babies.
Yes.
And is usually accompanied by very pale stools,
Yes.
as Stephen Mum was just explaining. Really, the stools of a baby should be either green or yellow. Any other color is abnormal.
So is it really a question you haven't got to just educate the parents, you've got to educate GPs as to know what to look for?
Yes, absolutely true. We have to educate doctors, we have to educate midwives, health visitors, and in fact the Children's Liver Disease Foundation have launched a Yellow Alert campaign with this purpose of educating.
Right. All right, Ira, let me come back to you. Now, you gave up a sizable bit of your liver. What's happened to you since then?
I went for checkups many times afterwards.
Yes. Does the liver kind of regrow at all, or are you left with a bit lopped off it?
No, the liver's the only organ in the body, I was told, that regrows, and within 8 weeks it had regrown.
It had. And are you fully fit now?
Yes, fine now.
And Stephen's fully fit, just jolly fed up with being in this studio, I can tell you. Stephen, are you very fully fit now? Yes, aren't you? How lovely. And so what sort of Christmas are you going to have?
Oh, he's going to be spot rotten.
Are you going to be spot rotten? All right. Well, thank you, Stephen, very much for coming in. Thank you, Georgina. Thank you, Ira, very, very much indeed. And it's time for us to take a short break now. Don't go away, though. When we return, we'll be taking your health problem calls. And if you'd like the doctor's advice, the number to call is 0181 614 2666.